Hey guys, today's story is about an OP that stays in a game far longer than they should. About 3 years ago was my first taste of D&D. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great one. But, me being the person that I am, I didn't back out when I should've. The DM set us up with a session 0 that seemed surprisingly extensive, where he sat us down individually and worked on our backgrounds, our character personalities, etc. I was quite impressed to see the amount of work he was putting into his homebrew world, and I wanted a character that was from a foreign land that would have many ideals that would seem semi-abnormal to the common folk of this world. I thought that that would be a good way to get some roleplay opportunities throughout the story. All the other players were new here as well, and also wrote extensive backstories. The game started with us on a boat, and we did some role-playing, and me being a religious character, I tried getting the word of my religion around to the ship crew and fellow players. Now, the god I chose was one of love and fertility, so I made my character one who generally wanted to stray from violence whenever possible. The other players, though, took this as if my character was some sex-addicted ne'er-do-well who wanted to get intimate with any living creature that I saw. I said many times in character, however, that that wasn't my goal, and that I wasn't like that at all. Unfortunately, that pestering and demeaning attitude towards my character never really stopped. Anyways, we got attacked by some Poseidon-like god creature that completely capsized the boat. It killed the crew, and it almost killed all of us. And while we were in the water, we had a difficult time doing combat, and spent most of the time just helplessly getting attacked. To add to this, we were put into this helpless situation with not many resources to work with, and had no real way of fighting, and these types of encounters happened very frequently. The story from here on out will be a little bit fuzzy, because this happened many years ago, but I'll try to sum up the encounters to show how the game slowly deteriorated. We arrived at a large city, and there was some sort of fight happening in a large arena. One man versus a large dragon, which the man surprisingly won, and it turned out that he was the commander of the army, and it was tradition to have this fight annually. As we got to know this commander and his abilities through a series of different encounters, it turns out that he was the most OP homebrewed NPC that one could ever imagine. This man could wild shape, turn into a stone golem 3 times a day, which he also got the health for, and he had a sword that could nearly instantly kill everything. He also had a health pool and AC that would probably challenge that of a Tarrasque. I would say that this man probably had a CR of about 30, and when a town was attacked by an army, he defended it by himself. But boy oh boy, the OP NPCs didn't stop there. When another encounter happened, we were in a dungeon, and as we left, there were 2 elite guards from the big city who arrived to escort us back. But for some reason, there was a disagreement between them and us, and one of our players, who was chaotic stupid, convinced them to attack one of our players. And they did so, but not only did they knock them out in one hit, they also almost killed them. Then they almost wouldn't let us heal her. After this happened, the chaotic stupid player tried to convince them to attack the rest of the party as well. And this is where things really started to go downhill. Players were starting to disengage from the game, being on phones and having side conversations. And anytime I actually tried to roleplay, I either got ignored, laughed at, or called stupid. One time, I actually brought up some of my backstory, which was something that none of the other players did, and I got laughed at by the entire table, because it was similar to something that happened in Naruto, which I didn't even watch. Which, being an emotional person, I just about broke down and cried because of how embarrassed and mad I was. All the while, Chaotic Stupid started getting buddy-buddy with the DM so that they could get away with a lot of crap in-game, and got some homebrew equipment. During another encounter, a powerful wizard teleported us into a maze. Now, truth be told, I don't really know how to run mazes in D&D, but if I ever tried, I don't think it would be like this. We all started in different spots, and we had to try to find each other. One character got stuck with a really powerful monster and died right away. Our DM made us roll history checks every single time we wanted to backtrack through the maze, and if we failed, we would end up going in the entirely opposite direction. And then with traps, rather than making us have a save, we had to explain what we do after hearing a click, and that would determine the DC, which ended up making the traps more deadly. In one part of the maze as well, there were invisible barriers that would give you one level of exhaustion if you failed the difficult saves. And Chaotic Stupid, of course, tried to go through each one, and got so exhausted that their movement speed was 0, and none of us could go get them. We did also try to brute force our way through one of the walls, but of course, through that wall was a portal to a hellish plane of existence, which I'm sure was done to force us to do the maze they wanted us to do. Eventually, we somehow all got out, and of course Chaotic Stupid got healed eventually of their exhaustion. As the campaign ran on, I began to care less and less about roleplay, because Chaotic Stupid decided that whatever I try to do, they would counter. For example, one time we picked up some stranded soldiers, and I befriended them, so he poisoned them and killed them, all in secret to only the DM's knowledge. And I think the last time I roleplayed was when we got knowledge of some people who were enslaved by Bugbears. It was optional to save them, and I somehow convinced the party to go get them. The DM told us they weren't planning on us actually wanting to save them, so they had to create the encounter for the next session. And when the next session rolled around, they told us that it was set up as a stealth mission, and, I quote, "Be careful, there's about 100 bugbears in there." To which we kind of gave each other confused looks, and decided that we needed to skip the encounter because it was way too risky. The DM got pissed off at this, and told us that we wasted his time. I told him that there was no way in hell to even do it without being immediately killed. Then we had an encounter where we had to fight invisible creatures in fog, and our DM took invisibility as there would be no possible way to even attack them, so we just kept getting hit over and over, and anything clever we came up with to try to find these creatures didn't work. There was also a time where an undead army arose around my character, so I got knocked out instantly, and it ended up being a TPK. To which the DM said, "You guys were supposed to run!" So we got magically brought back to life. Near the end of the campaign, the DM started dating a particularly controlling person, who told him he could only work on D&D 1 day a week, and at work. So the already awful campaign got rushed. Eventually, Chaotic Stupid, who was plotting with the DM, became the BBEG, and the DM basically tried to run 2 campaigns. One that we weren't allowed to listen to because our characters wouldn't know what's happening, and we instantly became level 20, and the ending was just super rushed and awful. We had to fight Chaotic Stupid, who was homebrewed to be overpowered and basically unstoppable. Now, it would be natural to question why I would put myself through this, and honestly, I'm not sure. I think I just hate the idea of being left out. But unfortunately, this one campaign pretty much turned all of my friends into awful D&D players. Because when I ran my own game, they rarely did any roleplay, and they were on their phones the whole time. They didn't act like they cared, and would constantly argue with me when I made a decision as a DM, because the previous one would whimsically bend the rules in someone's favor, while somehow also managing to make the game impossibly hard. This all has been deeply distressing for me, because for the first time in my life, I found something that I could finally dump my creativity into, and see something I make come to fruition. And now, all of that has been stripped from me. I want to play D&D, but I have no one to play with, and I'm scared to try online play because I've never done it before, and I'm worried what kind of strangers I might meet on the internet. So I hope with all my heart that someday I can DM for real players because I had such a deep passion for it that I don't want to leave in the past. But that's all I have for now, thank you to anyone who's taken the time to listen to this. Well guys, as the age-old saying goes, no D&D is better than bad D&D. Bad D&D will absolutely kill your drive for it at some points, and maybe you'll never go back to it. It's worth spending the time to try to find the right group for yourself, because otherwise you're basically just punishing yourself for no rhyme or reason. Don't be like OP and stay longer than you have to. It isn't worth it. But in any case guys, that's the end of the video. And if you have a story that you would like me to narrate, let me know. And if you want to hang out, I have a Discord link in the description.